Good morning from NGHS Juniors and welcome to Here's My Hero. In the lead up to Remembrance Sunday this coming weekend and Remembrance or Armistice Day next Wednesday, the 11th of November, we have been thinking about the men and women, the heroes, who have served or still serve in or alongside our armed forces. The Army on the land, the Royal Navy at sea, and the Royal Air Force in our skies, both in peacetime and at war. Here's My Hero is narrated by the girls of 4C and 4E, with exhibits kindly donated by our NGHS families and staff. We have been amazed by your stories of bravery and sacrifice, and it's an honour to now share with you our gallery of heroes from the past and present.
We start our exhibition with a very sad story brought to us by Elizabeth from 5C, who has had 3 great-great-uncles who served in the Great War of 1914 to 1918. Of these 3 heroes, she and her family would especially like to honour Cecil Arthur Moody, who enlisted in the York and Lancaster Regiment, which was sent to France. In 1915, he then transferred to the Durham Light Infantry. Cecil and his fellow soldiers fought in successive battles over 3 long years. Tragically, Cecil was shot and killed by an enemy sniper on the 24th of August 1918, 4 months before the end of the war. Cecil was just 22 years old, and his body now lies in the Regina Trench Cemetery in the Somme, France.
Mrs. Bailey's hero is her grandfather, Robert Osmond, who served in the Second World War in Chilwell, just outside Nottingham. There, he worked with ammunition and weapons for the war effort. This was a very dangerous job. In fact, an accidental explosion at Chilwell during the First World War killed 134 people and injured another 250. So it's easy to see why Mrs. Bailey thinks Robert Osmond was a hero.
Hello everyone, this is Eliza from 4A. I have a sister, Martha, in 2B, and we have 2 heroes, both of them great-grandfathers. First, John Jennings, who served the Royal Navy during the Second World War. And secondly, Frank Colburn. He was in the army and he served the Suffolk Regiment. And secondly, Frank Colburn. He was in the army and he served in the Suffolk Regiment during the Second World War. Men and women like Frank and John took great risks to defend our freedoms.
Lucy from 3P and Gabby from 1CM have a hero. He's their Uncle Mark, who did 2 tours abroad as an army medic. Here he is, in Iraq. He now lives in Lincolnshire, where he continues to help many people in need with their air ambulance. Here's one of Mrs. Key's heroes. Her mum, who joined the Women's Royal Navy Service during the Second World War. Mrs. Key's mum is now in her 90s, and just as with other ex-servicemen and servicewomen, the Royal British Legion would help her if she ever needed assistance. Hello everyone, this is Lizzie from 4C. My sister Emily's in 1G, and here are our heroes. First, our great-grandmother who served in the Women's Auxiliary Air Force at Bomber Command. She plotted incoming aircraft and scrambled fighters and then served in Cyprus. And on the right, here is our great-grandfather who served in the Royal Air Force as a radio operator on bomber missions. Thank you to the family of Zara in 1G for sharing this beautiful photo of her great-great-great-grandfather Alexander Glenn of the Northumberland Fusiliers. He was mentioned in the dispatches for bravery after the Battle of Somme Sadly, he was wounded whilst rescuing a comrade, and he died of his injuries at Passchendaele in October 1917. This photo shows Zara's hero with his wife and daughter. Thank you also to Flossie from 6B. Here's her hero, her great-grandfather Philip Allery. He served during the Second World War in an anti-aircraft battery, operating large guns in Dorset.
Now, we all know Sharon from the dining hall, don't we? But did you know that her grown-up daughter and her son-in-law are chief petty officers in the Royal Navy? Sharon is super proud of them. They're her heroes.
Mrs. Price's hero is her grandfather, Albert Brockington, who served in the Royal Air Force before, during and after the Second World War. He started off mending damaged aircraft and he rose through the ranks and to become an officer. His career in the RAF saw him serving in Europe, the Middle East and Canada.
Hello everyone, this is Mrs. E, and here's my hero, my brother-in-law James, who has served his country in the Falkland Islands and Afghanistan. Here he is, on the happiest day of his life, when he married my sister, wearing his RAF uniform with pride.
Evie from 1CM has a very special hero in her family. This is her great-grandfather Harvey Booth, who proudly served in the army during the Second World War. On VE Day in 1945, he met the woman he would eventually marry, Evie's great-grandmother, Sylvia. What a wonderful way to end the war.
Lizzie from 6B's grandfather must have had nerves of steel. He served in the RAF during the Second World War as a rear gunner and radio operator on the Halifax bombers. No wonder he's her hero.
Hello everyone, this is Albert. My great-grandfather Arthur fought in the First World War just over 100 years ago. He served in the Royal Engineers in France and Belgium. This is him standing in the middle. He's my Poppy Appeal hero, and I'm really proud to have him in my family history.
Mr. Cooper has two heroes in his family tree, two great-grandfathers who served in the First World War. Even though he's never met them, the sight of them in their uniforms still fills Mr. Cooper with pride. Frankie from 5C's family have sent us this picture of her heroic great-grandfather, Charles Speakman. He fought with General Montgomery's famous 8th Army in the deserts of Algeria and Tunisia in 1943. The 8th Army defeated the Germans in North Africa and then chased them up to the north of Italy, where they eventually surrendered.
Mrs. Fowler's grandfather, Dennis Butcher, joined the Navy at the age of 16. He served in Burma, Ceylon, and North Africa during World War II. His brother Philip, Mrs. Fowler's great-uncle, joined the Royal Air Force, but was sadly killed in action. Dennis survived the war and returned to England, where he married and had 2 daughters. He shared many wartime stories with Mrs. Fowler, and he is her hero.
This is Elsie from 4C. My great-great-uncle Frank George was a pilot in the First World War. He was in the Royal Flying Peace Corps. He received these medals for his war efforts.
Hello, this is Grace from 4E, and here are some pictures of my great-grandfather, Frank. He was a Grenadier Guard at Buckingham Palace at the start of the Second World War. Frank was then posted to Germany with his battalion for 2 years. He's my hero.
Mrs. Astor's brother joined the Territorial Army when he was 22. He spent time mentoring young people and helped out when local disasters happened, such as floods and landslides. Mrs. Astor's family were all very shocked when, at the age of 46, he received a call up to tour in Afghanistan for 6 months. Despite his age, his senior rank and his engineering expertise meant that the army needed him in Afghanistan. They were all extremely worried about him, and they missed him a lot, especially at Christmas. Fortunately, he returned safely with lots of tales to tell, and his homecoming parade in Exeter was, and still is, one of the proudest days of Mrs. Astor's life. He was awarded a medal by the Duke of Gloucester, and he is Mrs. Astor's hero.
On the left, in this photo, is Marie, who is related to Annabelle from 3P. Marie was in the RAF for 18 years and has served in many countries, including Iraq. Just like many of our other heroes from the armed forces, she has now gone on to do another job that also involves helping people. Marie now works for the NHS.
Hello everyone, this is Bella from 4C and I have a sister Lumina in nursery. Our biggest hero is our daddy. Here he is in his sergeant's uniform from when he served in the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. And this was our great-great-grandfather who fought in World War I. He returned from that terrible war with injuries and married our great-great-grandmother, whose first husband had sadly been killed in the trenches. This is similar to what happened in Michael Walpurgis' story of Little Manfred, when one of the German characters married the widow of his friend who died whilst clearing mines.
Thank you to the family of Imi from 5R, who provided us with this photo of her great-grandfather, Kenneth. Due to problems with his eyesight, Kenneth was unable to become a soldier during the Second World War. But he still did his bit for king and country by signing up as a fire watch, helping to locate and put out fires during the bombing of London. What a hero! Imi's other hero is her great-grandmother Evelyn, who, in World War II, trained to be a driver. During the Blitz, she drove paymasters around the East End of London so that they could pay the workers.
Mr. Elkington's hero is his father John, who served in the 2nd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment in Suez and Cyprus in the 1950s. All these years later, John's nephew will wear his uncle's medals with great pride on Remembrance Sunday.
Prableen from 5C and Simran from 1G are enormously proud of their heroic great-grandfather, who fought for the British Army in Burma, Malaya and Singapore, and who then came from India to settle in England in 1964. Bir Singh Johal was also a huge supporter of his local Poppy Appeal and the Royal British Legion. He always attended remembrance services in his hometown of Derby, and he was proud to live in Britain.
Finally, we think of the soldiers who never came home from war, whose bodies were never found, or who were buried abroad. We think of men like Sergeant James Hadfield, the great-great-uncle of Isabella in 1CM, who joined the Royal Air Force at the beginning of World War II. In 1941, he and his aircrew took off from England, bound for Germany. James and his 4 comrades sadly lost their lives when that aircraft crashed in Belgium. James Hadfield and his crew now lie in a Belgian cemetery. No photo exists of him, however his family know from this beautiful, simple headstone that he will always be remembered with love and respect.
Thank you for listening, for supporting our Poppy Appeal, and for wearing our puppies with pride.